Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In the latest attempt by the Republican establishment to derail Donald Trump's presidential run, former Massachusetts governor and one-time Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney is giving a speech today at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City in which he's calling Trump a phony and a fraud. In Romney's prepared remarks, he writes about Trump, quote, his promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University. He's playing the American public for suckers, end quote. Donald Trump has won 319 delegates so far, nearly 100 more delegates than any other candidate. This comes as 4 Republican presidential candidates will face off at a debate in Detroit, Michigan tonight, after neurosurgeon Ben Carson said he would not participate in tonight's debate and that he doesn't see a, quote, political path forward. Carson has failed to win a single state's primary or caucus. Speaking Tuesday in Baltimore, Dr. Carson gave his diagnosis of the political system, rotten to the core.
As I've had an opportunity to really study our system, it has become a little bit discouraging seeing all the relationships that exist there. It is rotten. It is rotten to the core. On both sides, Democrats and Republicans. The political class and their minions, which includes much of the media, you know, they don't like it when someone challenges their authority.
Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders are slated to debate in Flint, Michigan Sunday night. This comes as the Justice Department has granted immunity to the former State Department staffer who set up Clinton's private email server in her home amidst an ongoing criminal investigation into Clinton's possible mishandling of classified information. Meanwhile, in Flint, new details have emerged about the ongoing water contamination crisis. Newly obtained documents show when the state of Michigan loaned Flint $7 million in April 2015 in order to ease the city's deficit so it could exit emergency management. A condition of the loan prohibited Flint from returning to the Detroit system without state approval. This condition was imposed despite the fact that Governor Rick Snyder's office was by this time well aware of the problems with the quality of Flint's drinking water, which, among other things, was contaminated with lead. On Wednesday, Michigan House Minority Leader Tim Grimmell and the Toledo Blade newspaper both called on Snyder to resign. Many Flint activists have also called for his arrest. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Progressive Caucus are traveling to Flint, Michigan, and will host a Speak Out Friday for residents affected by the ongoing water crisis. The European Union's proposed a plan to distribute more than $700 million of humanitarian aid within its own borders as the continent attempts to respond to the needs of refugees fleeing wars in North Africa and the Middle East. This comes as 30,000 refugees are stranded in Greece because countries further along the Balkan route have closed their borders. Meanwhile, in Calais, France, police have continued to dismantle parts of the country's largest refugee camp, known as the Jungle. Refugees say the police have been destroying people's homes or threatening to destroy community centers such as distribution centers and kitchens, even though a court ruling last week prohibits authorities from dismantling public spaces. At least a dozen refugees have launched a hunger strike to protest the ongoing evictions. 5 of them have sewn their lips shut in protest. An Iraqi refugee named Sarwar spoke out.
I'm planning to go to UK, but how? The border's closed. I cannot live into the jungle anymore because CRS not leave me alone, destroy to my shelter, and I don't know where my life is going.
In New York City, arguments have begun in a federal appeals case in which Haitian victims are seeking to hold the United Nations responsible for a cholera epidemic that killed more than 9,000 people. The UN peacekeepers are accused of negligently bringing cholera to the island during their deployment following the 2010 Haitian earthquake. But the United Nations is arguing it has immunity under a 1946 convention, and its lawyers did not attend Wednesday's hearing. Meanwhile, in a London courtroom, Nigerian communities from the Niger Delta have brought a lawsuit against energy giant Royal Dutch Shell over repeated spills from Shell's oil pipelines. The spills have devastated the local farming and fishing industries and have contaminated the drinking water. The Nigerian communities are seeking to force Shell to pay cleanup costs. It's the second time in 5 years Shell's been sued in London over oil spills in the Niger Delta. The White House is reportedly vetting federal appellate judge Jane Kelly as a potential nomination for the Supreme Court following the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. Kelly was a longtime public defender in Iowa before being appointed to the United States Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. If confirmed, Kelly would become the first public defender on the Supreme Court. Republicans have said they will not consider any Supreme Court nominations by President Obama, but Democrats believe Kelly's nomination could pressure Judiciary Committee Chair Chuck Grassley to reconsider this position because Kelly's a prominent Iowa jurist. Grassley is up for re-election this year. In Montgomery, Alabama, white police officer Aaron Smith has been arrested for the killing of unarmed African-American man Gregory Gunn. On February 25th, Gunn, a 58-year-old grocer, was walking home when the 23-year-old white officer shot him several times, killing him. Following the shooting, Montgomery Police Chief Ernest Finley told local newspapers Gregory Gunn had been holding some form of weapon. It was later identified as a retractable painter's stick. The shooting sparked days of protests and accusations of racial profiling. On Wednesday, Officer Aaron Smith was arrested and charged with murder. In Oklahoma, the former CEO of Chesapeake Energy has died only a day after he was indicted on charges of conspiring to fix bids for oil and gas leases. Aubrey McClendon died Wednesday morning after his car crashed into an overpass wall at top speed and burst into flames. Paco Balderrama of the Oklahoma City Police Department says McClendon, quote, pretty much drove straight into the wall, end quote. The former CEO had made billions off the controversial gas extraction process known as hydraulic fracturing. It's called fracking. He was accused of violating antitrust laws by orchestrating a scheme between two oil and gas companies not to bid against each other for leases in Oklahoma. And in India, celebrations broke out on university campuses in Delhi after a court granted bail to a student leader imprisoned under a colonial-era sedition law. Student Union President Kanya Kumar was arrested on February 12th after a student group held an event marking the anniversary of the 2013 execution of Afzal Guru, who was convicted of a 2001 attack on the parliament. Kumar's arrest has sparked freedom of speech protests across India. On Wednesday, a public prosecutor announced Kumar would be released on bail.
Today, the Honorable Court has finally announced the order, thereby saying that 6 months interim bail has been granted to the accused and subject to surety bonds, he will be released.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.